look like an easy fight, Batman?
No, just a good one.
These videos are not for children. If you're a children, then piss off.
Greetings and salutations, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, the Infuso. Got it memorized? Now previously, I've discussed my favorite Batman game from my childhood, that being Batman Vengeance. But now, let me tell you what I thought was the coolest Batman game from my childhood. Still set in Batman the Animated Series, or more accurately at this point in time, the new Batman Adventures, its sequel, Batman Rise of Sin Tzu. Before I get into the story, let me first tell you, you need to enter this game with no expectations. Because if you go into Rise of the Sin Tzu expecting the same experience as Batman Vengeance, you're gonna both be very pleasantly surprised, but also somewhat disappointed. Like the game before it, it's very mission-based. Unlike the game before it, everything else. It's a completely different game with entirely different mechanics. Even genre-wise, these two games are night and day. Whereas Batman Vengeance was an action-adventure game, Rise of the Sin Tzu is in fact a beat-em-up, which is completely unexpected both because of how considerably different this was from the previous installment, but also because beat-em-ups weren't exactly all the rage anymore. By the time this came out, they almost felt like a dying genre, or at the very least, a much more niche product. I could be off on this one, but there was a point in time where I was seeing a lot of them, and this was not that point in time. That's the only point that I am trying to make here. It feels weird to have the Batman brand marketed like this, but I'm not really complaining. Because this game did what no other had up until that point in time, giving the player the ability to play as any member of the Bat family. Batman, Nightwing, Batgirl, even Robin, who strangely enough was actually voiced by Scott Menville in this game, who is noticeably not the Robin from Batman the Animated Series or the new Batman Adventures, but instead the Robin from Teen Titans.
Hope I haven't missed all the fun.
He stole something from me.
Your charming good looks. It's your kind of show, puke face. And another loser bites the dust. This is gonna be fun. Whoa! Awesome, Batgirl! Wow! You're a blast to watch, Batgirl! I love it! Lame-o. Not as tough as they looked. Things change.
This confused me a lot as a child because not only is this not the same Robin from the same continuity, but it's not even the same Robin, as the Robin on Teen Titans was Dick Grayson, while the Robin on the show was Tim Drake. Yeah, so, that was an early mind freak for me. And before anybody asks, no, I did not want to say freak, but I did want to get monetized on the video, so you see how that works. Let's continue. Outside of the change in sidekick vocal cords, the rest of the cast from the new Batman Adventures returns. Kevin Conroy, Tara Strong, and Lauren Lester all provide the famous voices of the classic heroes, while Jeffrey Combs, Hector Elizondo, and Ron Perlman all provide their voices to the iconic villains once again. Bob Hastings even comes back to play Commissioner Gordon, so it's nice to hear the gang all back together again. But the true highlight of this lineup has to be not the returning, but instead the debuting talent, as Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa acts as the game's namesake and main antagonist, the Sin Tzu. That's right, Shang Tsung himself is this game's big bad.
Very good, Batman. You are the worthy opponent I desire.
Two great commanders facing each other on an empty battlefield.
There is no chance involved, only certainty. I have provided you a puzzle with no solution.
Portraying a character never before seen on screen or put to comic book panels, Sin Tzu was specifically created for this game to give Batman a brand new threat rather than having him go toe-to-toe with an old foe. And this blew my mind as a kid. It instantaneously made this a must-play. A new villain wreaking havoc on Gotham City, being posed as Batman's greatest threat? Yeah, sign me up, take my money, I'm there. And surprisingly, the character was created by comic book artist Jim Lee, which explains why it looks awesome. Sin Tzu is an Asian warlord who had been captured and shipped to Arkham Asylum for further study. Now, I'm just gonna pause his origin story right there because that sounds like an incredibly dumb idea. Like, Arkham is notably underfunded and understaffed, clearly, because every major bad guy and a couple of minor ones made their way out of it. Like, we're not talking about a once-in-a-lifetime Shawshank Redemption type of arc. We're talking about people breaking out of there all the time. So going out of your way to transfer somebody from a completely different country and bring them to Arkham Asylum, a place that is notorious for how many inmates have broken out, seems like the worst idea. Also, let it be known that I call into question the need to send him to Arkham Asylum, because their success rate in rehabilitation and mental health is just at an all-time low. I think that this is really the worst place that you could put him. Anywhere else really would be better than this. This is a worst-case scenario. Of course, as you can imagine, this process didn't go as smoothly as intended, and it was only a matter of time before he broke out of Arkham and looked to take over the city, using some sort of doomsday device. The Sin Tzu also has a great deal of power, being able to control the minds of the weak and impressionable. Using his yin-yang alchemy, which by the way is an actual term used, Sin Tzu turns Clayface, Bane, and Scarecrow, as well as all their underlings, into his mindless drones. And I imagine that it's probably considerably easier to possess these people into committing crimes because that's what they do anyway. However, I do take some issue with Bane and Scarecrow being written to be impressionable and weak. I don't know, I wouldn't call that an accurate description of either of these characters, especially in this continuity. After taking on swarms of enemies, both basic and bosses, Batman deduces that the Sin Tzu is hiding in Arkham Asylum, which seems a little familiar, because the best place to hide is in plain sight. Now, I say that sarcastically, but also seriously at the same time. It's valid on both levels. But upon re-entering Arkham, Batman comes face to face with all the enemies he encountered and sent there from the last game, frozen solid, trapped in suspended animation, as the Sin Tzu is taking control of them and keeping them completely frozen, which is an interesting premise. It makes for a really cool visual, but again, I gotta take issue with the game insisting that characters like Joker, Harley, Ivy, and Mr. Freeze are all weak-minded and impressionable. 2 of the 4 are doctors, and another one of them has been referred to as a maniacal super genius, managing to trap the Dark Knight on numerous occasions. Nonetheless, of course, I appreciated this little nod to the game's predecessor, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that I marked out as a kid for these little non-verbal cameos. They're like the coolest continuity that I had seen at that point in time. I have a similar situation with the Batman the Animated Series episode of Mount Olympus. I was just happy to have gotten the reference. Oh, and to the people who tried to correct me in my last video and tell me that Rise of the Sin Tzu wasn't in fact a sequel to Batman Vengeance, well, here you go. They literally only referenced the 4 characters that Batman took down in that previous game. This was intentional. Ultimately, Batman tracks down Gotham's greatest threat, but falls into a trap doing so. The Caped Crusader goes one-on-one with the Warlord, and after a grueling battle, justice is served. The General's armies stand down following his defeat. The device is disabled and Gotham City is saved once again. The game unsurprisingly ends with Batman and Jim Gordon talking on a rooftop, an all too familiar ending. And that's the story of Batman Rise of the Sin Tzu. Now, gameplay I won't speak on too much. I'm not really a gamer, so that was never really a selling point to me, even when I was a kid. It's gonna sound a little strange, but I didn't just get video games to play them. As a matter of fact, most of the time, I got them to see how they played out. I'm a sucker for story, in any medium, but I did find this game to be a lot of fun. Getting to be overly animated as you're beating up swarms of enemies, listening to your heroes make quips and just share witty dialogue mid-fight, learning new attacks to use on your opponents with each and every battle, getting to see these iconic versions of these heroes in their comic book counterparts' classic costumes was awesome. There's a lot of fan service here with this one. You can tell there was so much passion put into this. But ultimately, I do find that the game gets overly repetitive. After a few levels, you've pretty much experienced almost all the game has to offer. It's fun while it lasts, but it's not good for long intervals of time. I always put the controller down after an hour or so, because it's just more of the same thing but slightly different. Regardless, I still think that this game is something that needs to be experienced. I'd hate to see it lost to the annals of time. Maybe it's fondly remembered for some, but it's definitely not something that is beloved or even remembered by most. I think if you're a Batman fan, you should probably check this one out. and it's best if played with friends. You'll definitely get more mileage out of this one with that. I know I did. Personally, I loved this game as a kid, just for the simple fact that it gave me more time with my all-time favorite character at the time, Nightwing. Someone who was often left on the cutting room floor of the new Batman adventures. He had a presence for sure, but he also wasn't always present. So it's good to see more of him. And being able to play as him, I mean, it's really just a godsend. The Sin Tzu character didn't really get over with audiences the same way other original creations for the animated series did. He wasn't exactly the next Harley Quinn. Despite that, I do think he was a really fun addition and a unique character that with the right amount of time and effort put into, could really be something special. But he hasn't really appeared anywhere outside of a tie-in comic to the game. Which, by the way, if you'd be interested in hearing about, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
"What's your game, Penguin?"
With all that being said, I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.